It's race day. Welcome back to Dynamic Racing Leagues here for another round of the amazing DTM Championship. I, of course, am your commentator, Nukeshot Zokio now, as opposed to Nukeshot off Apple. Recent name change and all that. You may have also noticed some of these cars are having the driver's name changed due to some substitutions and such, so there's plenty of stuff to go off here. We are at Dragon Trail in Croatia on the Seaside circuit. Death chicanes, S's, hairpins, it's got the lot. We've had a ballast reset just before this round, so everyone besides finishing in the top 3 last time out will be completely free of ballast, and we should be seeing the cars at a very high speed indeed because of that. Of course, last time out at Brands Hatch was another fantastic little race. Looking for some more action here today. So of course, some of the drivers you may recognise. Of course, RBZ Arama, currently second on the times as King of Talk goes through, but Arama filling in for GRM Bandit in the Suicide Prevention Moonshine Motorsports Aston Martin, so there they are indeed. Nilsman still in the Breitling Nukeshot car of the BMW M6, so they are still around, as is King of Talk, who has had a very good time out yesterday in Tokyo. He's recently flown back in from that race and will be hoping to continue with good results. Sailor, of course, another driver who we've seen very good form as of recent, so another one to watch out for as we are finally getting qualifying underway. So a bit delay on the stream, meaning the practice session may appear a bit shorter on the stream. I'm also choking to death, so that's good. We also have a few different race engineers who will be joining us. Some of the teams getting a fair bit more serious about the competition than previous with that sort of stuff. So King of Talk currently leads the pack out as they go on to their outlaps and seeming to already make a little bit of a mistake. At least it wasn't on their main lap. So Sailor now taking the lead of the pack, as it seemed there was a bit of an off from Y-Bear at turn 5, I believe that is. So of course Y-Bear for HKS Vertigo making a return. The Indonesian looking to be on some good form. Rob, well, it's been a little while since we've seen Rob. I could be completely mistaken. I believe the last time we saw them was at Blue Moon Bay. So good to see the white and green Audi R8 of HKS Vertigo there. Y-Bear's teammate back for yet another race. Spinner Copen again representing Aston Martin with the Team Spirit car. Adidas sponsorship, a very iconic car to the series at this point. So there's certainly one to watch through this. TSR Stig, certainly yet another one who is going to be a favourite for the win here. Again, you have to think this is probably Audi's strongest representative in the series at the moment is TSR Stig. Making their way through the second to last turn. And Dynamic Carbon, of course, for Dynamic Esports, the team with a very strong lead in the championship standings. They currently stand on 73 points, and their closest challengers, Team Black Diamond Esports, are on 44. Then it's TSR Motorsport in third with 25 points. Alpha Nut currently on an outlap, but they're here too. representing Team VRC. So, guys, going on to, or on rather, their first qualifying laps, seeming to be a decent pace from Sailor already. We're gonna go on board with them. Of course, the Team Black Diamond entry has been doing exceptionally well as of recent, and despite only being a one-car entry, really, has managed to get up into second in the championship, the team's championship, that is. So it comes across the line, it's a 138.417. Second on the road is RBZ Arama, still again used to the car. It seems they don't set that high of a lap time. It's at 7.7 seconds off the pace. Wybear a fair bit closer, and Spinnerkopen actually currently goes second, only around 5/10 slower. King of Torque, wherever he is, there he is. So King of Torque has had quite a bad first lap of things. Hello to Gaming now in the chat, cheering on for Team Black Diamond. Of course, that has been very confusing in the threads, because TBD normally stands for to be decided. So, very amusing shortening of the name there, I have to say. So, it seems like King is being held up a bit by Wybear. Both are on their laps, so they don't really have to give way, I would think, unless one of them has made a mistake. There's contact between the two. Meanwhile, Dynamic Carbon has gone fastest with a 137.7. Again, a bit slidey, and you gotta think, Wybear, yep, we'll just back out of that one in the end of things. So there's yellow flags going into the chicane, and that was actually the Aston Martin of Arama, I think that was. Yep, the suicide prevention car. It just seemed to get it wrong on the exit of the chicane of death. So we're going to just go on board for now with the Team Spirit car of Spinnerkopen. Take through a lap of the circuit. King currently making it a Dynamic Esports 1-2. So turn 1, very high speed. King don't really need to brake for that, and then you've got this very tricky chicane as your turn 2 and 3 complex. Very difficult to get on the power efficiently, as it is uphill. The car does tend to slide a little bit. Turn 4 generally quite pretty much like flat out, and basically a hairpin for turn 5, also now heading uphill and then back downhill again towards this fantastic little S's section. You can see the car head just kick up a bit of dirt. All about rhythm as you make your way through this section. Again, well executed by Spinnerkopen, then coming up over the rise, and there you see your next braking zone. Arguably the slowest part of the track. Again, so easy to get on the power and run wide into that wall, and this is the death chicane, the infamous one, where suspension setup is absolutely crucial if you're going to ride the curbs safely. Well done by Spinnerkopen on that occasion, and through the tunnel. Of course, along the seafront. There you see that was King of Torque getting out the way, just setting himself up for another lap. Second to last corner. Generally want a late apex for that. Get as much of a run onto the straight as you can, then that little kink leading back onto the start finish straight, and that is a lap here at Dragon Trail Seaside. So King of Torque actually went into the pits, so that says to me that they've picked up damage, and we are about halfway through this qualifying session, so still plenty to play for. It's still currently Carbon who has the fastest lap. He's currently not on track if I am not mistaken. Oh no, he is on track now. He's just on an outlap. As soon as he crosses the sector marker, he should go back to the top of the standings. And indeed he does. So King of Torque currently second, also on an outlap, of course, after picking up the damage. Sailor, making it a BMW 1, 2 and 3 in qualifying so far. Interesting enough, it's actually Alpha Nut who is the fastest of the Audis at this particular stage. So, very good showing from him in qualifying so far. 7/10 down. Again, just playing with fire as he got on the dirt on the outside. So easy to just hit the wall from that, as that's the HKS Vertigo car of Weiberg going slow in the chicane, lucky to avoid contact. As Nils has actually just gone fastest of anyone. That's a 1:37.544 for the German of Nukeshot Motorsport. So very solid pace indeed. We're now just going to watch. It doesn't look like Alpha Nut improved on that occasion. Well, in fact, no, they must have, because Nils improved. So a little bit of an improvement from Alpha Nut there. Spinnerkoppen currently highest of the Aston Martins in 6th. But now it's the BMWs 1, 2, 3 and 4. I believe there was a bit of discussion regarding a potential BOP increase for the Aston Martins. I'm not 100% sure if that was fully confirmed or not. Weiber doing a very good job, currently sits 7th. And Stig really not having the best of time of things. He's currently down in 8th, that's the 3rd highest Audi. Certainly we would have expected a fair bit more pace coming from Lord Stigworth. He perhaps is using a little bit of slipstream coming from the car of Arama. Arama currently down in 9th, so just one position lower. So that was an outlap for Stig, and Arama does indeed go faster and displaces Stig, but not quite enough to get up and ahead of Weiber. Less than a 10th in it though. So it's still Nils that tops the times. So very solid job, it would seem. It would also seem that that new race engineer that I've hired is working a treat. Big up Joe of the Fire. Carbon still currently 2/10 down. Alpha Nut is in the pits, so they'll be hoping to just put on some fresh rubber, which is going to be at its absolute optimal, as opposed to the slightly worn rubber, and just going for a last little attack. There's currently 4 minutes left in the session. There's still quite a few cars in the pits. King of Torque has dropped down to 8th, so King of Torque, oh no, he's back up to 4th, so he exited to the pits, so he must have adjusted something in the setup perhaps, and then has gone out again to try and find the 6/10 that he is lacking at this stage. So TSR Stig just coming up to the second to last corner. And this is going to probably be a bit more of a representative time for him. We're about to see what it is. It is an improvement of 1.5 seconds. That's only enough for 7th on the grid though, at this stage. 4/10 slower than Alpha Nut, who's in very, well, identical machinery. Setups probably vary a little bit. So we've had a very healthy turnout here today actually for the DTM race. We've been seeing a little bit of a lacking grid in the Super Formula, but always good to see that this, which is arguably the main series, the staple series of dynamic racing leagues, is still going very, very strong, and with a wealth of entries from a fantastic variety of teams, and of course can't forget about the craftsmanship of the liveries as well. I mean, just look at the beautiful design that Stig has done on the Depot machine. as he's currently 3/10 green. So again, he'll be looking to improve. That's currently not quite enough to displace Alphanut, but he's very close and in fact scrapes the outside wall of the chicane. So it's going to be close again. I don't quite think this will be enough to displace Alphanut. But of course Stig will have a little bit more time in the session to go. It is an improvement of 2/10, so it brings him closer and further from the grasp of Wybear. Arama down in 9th. This of course is a car that he's probably not that used to. He's filling in for GRM Bandit, who unfortunately can't be here. So of course he's still probably learning the car a fair bit, and that might explain part of why he is not as close to the sharp end of the field as he is in the Super Formula. But he does indeed improve, so he is getting faster. That puts him ahead of Wybear. And it is still Nils, just sliding his way through the hairpin. He's 2/10 purple actually on his own time. We're going to go on board with Nils. This could be make or break for him, as he just gets it a little bit wrong out the chicane, but could still very much improve. All depends on the run he gets through here. I'm gonna have to start calling the flag as soon as the timer goes. So it looks like Nils would just about get through. It isn't an improvement on that occasion. The flag now called, so Nils would actually be the last person on a lap. There's King of Torque. King of Torque is currently going through the last sector. Dynamic Carbon's about to come across the line, and Dynamic Carbon goes 5/10 faster than Nils with a 1:36.9. That is a fantastic lap from the Irishman, but what can King do? King can't quite match his teammate, but he does go ahead of Nils. So again, it is going to be a Dynamic Esports 1-2 unless something else happens. There's Sailor. They're also in this sort of top little fight. We're going to have to quickly check their sectors. They are down in that sector, but look behind. There is Nils, and Nils perhaps might be benefiting a little bit when he gets, if he can get close enough into the slipstream range. There he is back there. So this is going to be make or break. So Nils always ran wide and he spins it. So that is qualifying over for Nilsman. Really unfortunate for them, really unfortunate for me, but I can't be that biased live, surely. But yeah, Nils will have to settle for third on that occasion, but still a fantastic effort from them. King of Torque will eventually be taking second, and once again, it is a Dynamic Esports front row with this guy, Dynamic Carbon, series organizer, on pole position. Fantastic job by them. Here's your live timing at the end of qualifying. So Rob, the only one to not get into the 1:40, so he's got a fair bit of pace to go from that. And Carbon, the only one into the 1:36 or so. It'll be very interesting to see what the race pace of the Dynamic Esports cars are like compared to the one lap pace in qualifying. We will have to see. It seems that it was mainly the last two sectors that Carbon was strongest in based on the purple numbers. So again, fantastic result for Dynamic Esports. But what can the rest of the field do off the line? It's going to be a BMW 1, 2, 3 and 4, so the first two rows will be taken up by them. So Nils and Sailor will perhaps have to start working together a little bit in order to make a bit of a jump on them off the line. And what will the likes of the other manufacturers be able to do, such as Alphanut, who qualifies as the best Audi, and of course Stig as well. So it's an all Audi third row. And I could be mistaken, I believe Spinnakopen is the highest of the Aston Martins, so they could be one to watch as well in the different machinery. If I recall correctly, this was a race that King of Torque managed to come out on top on last season. I have to double check that stat, but so far it has been a very exciting time here at Dragon Trail already, and we haven't even started the race yet. So hope you're enjoying the stream coverage so far. I of course am Nukeshot Zokio, previously Nukeshot off Apple. Of course, we are live here in Croatia. Really fine margins between King and Nils in the end, so those two looking quite evenly matched. But Carbon just seeming to be on a little bit of another level on the one lap pace. There you see some of the madness going on at the S's, as everyone is waiting for the final call in order to get the race underway and such. In case anyone was wondering, no, we are still not part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels, but we can happily big up Jack Wilkinson on the cam. Fantastic lad, currently does all of the camera work here on Dynamic Racing Leagues, and is, fun fact, the only person in Blackpool who owns a camera. So we've got 9 minutes until the start according to race control, so a bit of a wind down period for the drivers. King of Talk already stressing it's a bit of a frustration regarding that, but perhaps this will be a time for the team strategists and their engineers to just think things through and plan things out before we get racing. We can see, I think that's a Rom over there just doing some drifting. Can't blame them. Although the tyres are probably a bit expensive. One person who isn't here today, which is really unfortunate to not see, John Wandering, the fan favourite, isn't here at Dragon Trail. I don't know whether he got lost at the airport or what, but he isn't here, unfortunately. But someone who is here now is I Am Groot. So that is the second car of VRC. Of course the first one being Alpha Nut, and Alpha Nut qualifying very, very well, highest of the non-BMWs. And of course Groot, as I've been on about pretty much all season long, has been a very, very strong contender, but just lacking that little bit of luck at times. Hasn't played out that well for them in terms of that. But they are here again, and will be, I assume, driving the same pink Fujitsu car as they were previous, so another bright colour to brighten up the grid, and a very sunny Dragon Trail circuit here today. There is Arama getting a bit closer to the cameras. Hello? Yep, just stopping. I don't even know if he's watching the stream. It currently says that I'm the only viewer of the stream, but he must know something. So Rob, very much an entry that we haven't seen much of at all throughout this season, but he is here today, the Italian. Gonna be another interesting one to watch, as we don't know too much about them as of yet. Here is the very bright pink Fujitsu car that is VRC I Am Group's pride and joy. He has become a Beyblade into the S's and parks up just in front of Y there. So it's going to be an absolutely stacked grid here today at Dragon Trail. Fans have come out in their thousands, and we're going to have some fantastic action coming your way shortly here in the Dynamic Racing League's DTM round 6 at the Dragon Trail Seaside circuit. In case you missed it, it's this guy who's in the pit lane, Dynamic Carbon, who has put their car on pole, and it is their teammate King of Torque who will be lining up alongside on the front row. So Dynamic Esports continuing to dominate. It's going to be an exciting one. What will happen at the front? What's going to happen in the midfield? Because with so many drivers, it's going to be very difficult to see, well, like, just to get through without any incidents. But I have my trust in the drivers that they'll be a bit restrained on the first lap before really going out on the attack. There you see King of Torque lining up side by side with Nilsman. Then just driving a bit further forward. And Nils drives a bit further forward. Oh, Nils just going out of camera shot. What's he doing? There he is. Nils' teammate Gugas not able to make it, which is another unfortunate result. Was meant to have a substitute in the form of Spinny Boy Mika, who you may recognize from the Super Formula Championship that we run on the channel. And of course DTM Season 1, so he is very accustomed to the car, but he hasn't got back to me about anything as of the time of this, so it's looking very unlikely that he'll be able to make it, which is very much a shame. We're used to having a little bit of a drag race. As that was TSR Stig just doing a bit of drifting. Always good to see. Yep, just showing off for the cameras the car control or lack thereof at this stage. The gravel here at Dragon Trail very much like sand, in the sense that it is very, very fine and quite deep as well. Makes you wonder if they've literally just chucked some sand from the beach onto the circuit. So it could also be an play a little bit of a part regarding if it gets spilled onto the track by someone running wide, which is certainly possible through turn 1, or rather the turn 2, 3 chicane. I'm thinking turn 4 as well, and on the exit of the S's. Those are the places where drivers are more than likely going to run wide at times and perhaps bring some gravel onto the circuit. We'll have to see how it all pans out, of course. This is all speculation at this point. King of Torque just making his way through the most well-known chicane in all of Gran Turismo Sport. Of course, Dragon Trail Seaside, a very, very popular circuit for online lobbies. So definitely a track that everyone should have quite a lot of experience on. Been in the game since the beginning, of course. I recall driving in the beta test of the game, and the Death Chicane was more of a castle section back then with the surroundings. Now it has the grandstand, of course, and the surrounding villas on the coastline. King of Torque putting some smoke in the air, trying to give everyone in the audience cancer or something. I don't know. I don't know why everyone in the background is just standing up. They might as well just sit down. The race hasn't started just yet. As soon as I say that, the final has started, so we're about to get things underway here at Dragon Trail. This is round 6 of Dynamic Racing League's DTM Season 2, and once again it is domination at the front of qualifying by Dynamic Esports. Carbon ahead of King on the first row of the grid, then Nilsson Sailor on the second, Spinnerkoppen and Alphanut on the third row of the grid, Stig and Wybear make up the fourth. And a bit further back we have Arama and Rob in 9th and 10th respectively, Groot, who didn't qualify in 11th, so 5 red lights, green, 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 and the cars are off, and it's a very good start from Nils. Nils is splitting the Dynamic Esports BMWs already. He's ahead of Carbon. Carbon's had a really bad start. Nils will have the inside line heading up towards turn 2. Alphanut trying to get involved as well. It looks like King gets through fine. There's a little bit of onion barges, and Alphanut is doing a fantastic job. Alphanut's up into second from this, and is actually on the inside line. They've also got Sailor trying to follow them through as Nils is put on the outside. And this battling's already allowing King to get a bit of a gap, but it's Alphanut who's currently second and Sailor up to third. So Nils, who was up to second, now dropped down. And Sailor's had a very good start from that second row of the grid, of course, now up to third. And they're all over the back of Alphanut. Alphanut, probably the highlight of the start, from getting up from the third row of the grid up to second, as Sailor seems to outbrake them, but they're a bit late, and that's allowing the cutback, and nearly 3 wide as they approach the chicane. It looks like Sailor does the smart thing and backs out. For now, it's a massive train of cars as they make their way through here. You can see how close everyone is. This is just allowing King of Torque to get away in the background, or the foreground rather, of that shot. Now Stig's coming through, and He tries to cover him off, but Sailor made contact and runs wide, and Sailor's going to lose plenty of positions from that. And look at Carbon. Carbon's all the way down to 7th on that one. Disastrous start from the Dynamic Esports driver, who was our pole sitter, don't forget. And now it looks like Nils is going to be challenging going into the turn 2 and 3. Doesn't quite work out for them. Spinnercopen's sticking their nose up the inside as well. So Spinnercopen's now got ahead of Sailor. Spinnercopen up to 5th. So good start by them. I have to say it's been a very, very clean start considering the amount of people that we've had here today. Hello to Joe Witt, my race engineer, in the chat. You've already had a shout out, don't worry, for the fantastic job you're doing with Nilsson and that car. He's currently sitting 4th overall, so 1 position down from where he started, but it was a very, very fantastic start, as now it's looking like Sailor is going to be trying to make a move around the outside of Spinnercopen. Spinnercopen does a very good job to defend. Did have to take the defensive line through there. Just being kicked up by the VRC car of Groot. Again, just right on the limits. In fact, a massive slide it would seem from the car of Sailor. And now it's looking like Spinnercopen might be trying to make a move, as that's Alpha Nut. Alpha Nut's gone wide. Alpha Nut's falling down the order. We're just going to have to get a very quick replay of this. So what happened to Alpha Nut? It just seemed like they took way too much speed and then they just clipped the gravel. That's all it takes. Ask CJ, he knows best. And now it has put him down to 11th and very far off the pack. It's King of Torque who is our race leader with 3.8 seconds. TSR Stig is up into 2nd place in the Dakar machine. So it's an Audi in 2nd. And it is Nilsson in 3rd, who's having to defend for all his life at the front of this train. It would seem that Stig's starting to get away a little bit. Sailor putting on the pressure, as is Spinnercopen. Fantastic racing so far. No one having to come into the pits with damage, which for touring car racing, has to be said, is fantastic to see. Now it's starting to look like he's going to get a little bit of a run. There we go, camera's messing up. Spinnercopen having to defend. Oh, a little bit of a nudge, and that's made Spinnercopen's car slip out a little bit, and Sailor has managed to get through on that occasion. That's sort of costing them a bit of time as well, as Nils seeming to be the next one to break with slipstream and the pack, and that was Groot with a massive impact into the wall. Going on board with Groot, just coming through the chicane. Just seeming to get it wrong, and that is a very heavy impact indeed. That is mechanical damage. And indeed they are having to come into the pits early. This will probably, they'll try and make this a mandatory stop, although tyre wear might be a little bit of an issue going forward for them. King of Torque still leads with a very healthy gap of 4.5 seconds. Nils is actually managing to catch up to the back of Stig, it would seem, as someone else has dropped quite far down the order. I'll quickly see what was going on here. So it just seemed on my screen that something changed. Was it Carbon and Spinnercopen? It just seemed like the timing screens went a little bit chaotic. So Spinnercopen down to 5th, Sailor 4th, and will be trying to challenge. But Carbon, our pole sitter, has a lot of work to do here. They're in the last point playing position, and they're pretty much super glued to the back bumper of the Aston Martin of Spinnercopen, making their way through the chicane of death. Get through cleanly, no death on this occasion. A bit further back, it's looking very close between the HKS Vertigo cars. Rob ahead of Ybear at this point. So, team rivalry. As that was a fantastic slide from Rob, but that's only allowing Wybear to get a run on them. A bit further up the order, there you can also see Carbon still chasing, still in the slipstream. Will he be trying anything going into turn 2? No. As someone's gone off. Someone's in the pits. I think that's Rob. Yep, Rob and Groot both going into the pits. So that's Groot's second stop, if I'm not mistaken. So Groot really not having the best of time of things at this stage. Look how close Nils is getting to the back of Stig. Fantastically spirited drive from the German. It's hunting him down, putting on the pressure. A bit further back, look like there might be a little bit of a nudge. But Spinnacopen's still holding strong against the onslaught that Dynamic Carbon is putting on them. Oh, contact, that was major contact into the wall. They avoid damage on that occasion. And Wybear having now defend from Alphanut. So Alphanut managing to catch up. They qualified 5th as best of the non-BMWs, so they would of course have the pace, you would think. And indeed, it is proving to be the case. Still Nils having a challenge. Stig still just a bit too far back at this stage. Spinnacopen still holding on. There's plenty of battles still developing as Arama gets a bit slidey over the curb. Alphanut still trying to close down. Not quite close enough as of yet. And still, look at this from Dynamic Carbon. They finally managed to get alongside of Spinnacopen, and in fact they've just got their nose in front. Spinnacopen will have the inside line.com. They brake a little bit later. Carbon will try the cut back on their run down towards the chicane. So we're hearing from Joe that Nils actually just tapped the wall through the chicane, and that's why he lost a little bit of time to Stig, but he's starting to gain it back up again. And in fact, Carbon has dropped a little bit back from Spinnacopen as well. Still, everything seeming to be okay at this stage. Arama starting to come back into the fray as well, finding his feet in the Aston Martin. Yeah, once again, thank you, Joe, for keeping me updated on the situation. Oh, yep, very slidey, just seemed to outbrake himself on that occasion, did Arama. Wybear, meanwhile, has managed to get a little bit more of a gap over Alphanut. So Wybear's starting to come good in this one as well. A bit further back, there you see Wybear's teammate Rob, who's currently 16 seconds back. And Groot down in 11th after making, I believe, 2 pit stops already this afternoon. As he really gets a slide on through turn 2 and 3. So the car really not settled, as that would seem that Nils has gone ahead of Stig. What's happened here? It looked like something happened to Stig actually. So we're gonna quickly see what happened here. Stig just runs too wide and the car bites him and he's into the wall. And that's mechanical damage for Stig. And that's gonna really stop their chances. And in fact, what's this now? Nils is into the lead. What's happened to King? What on earth? King's picked up heavy engine damage. That must have been going through the chicane of death. That's the only place I could imagine that they've picked it up. So King and Stig, who were running at the very sharp end of the proceedings, having to pit in with the damage. And there's put Sailor up into second, and this guy Nils up into the lead of this race. And Nils has gone purple in the first sector. So King and Stig will have to try and incorporate that into their strategy by making that their one mandatory pit stop and just try and go to the end from here. It's a bit ambitious. We'll have to see how it plans out for them. At the moment, Nils doing a fantastic job to just keep it on the road and to not really make any mistakes. I really don't want to jinx that. Oh, nearly did as well. It was absolutely terrifying. But Sailor, and we know the kind of pace that the Team Black Diamond car and driver has. They're starting to lose out a little bit to Nils, it has to be said. Fantastic run by that car, especially at Autopolis if I recall, where it was Ayrton Spencer who literally just put on a masterclass, lapping everyone except second place if I recall. But Nils continuing to build a gap. It was 2 seconds in about a sector or so ago. There's yellow flags that someone stopped at the side of the track, and that is who's that? That's Rob. What's happened to Rob? Rob's just decided to retire from the race, so he just pulled off to the side of the track, so it just caused yellow flags. The gap continuing to increase just a little bit. Sailor having a little bit of a better exit out of turn 5. Oh, gaining. Arama's being put up to 4th after the calamities of Stig and King. King and Stig both still in the points though, they're 5th and 6th respectively, and starting to gain on the Aston Martin. There is King for perspective. His last lap was a 1 minute 40.9. Compare that to his fastest that he's set earlier on in the race for 1:37.2. As we're now watching Ybear and Alphanut. So Alphanut seeming to have gone ahead of Ybear on this occasion. So it looked like they made that pass. But Ybear still on the back of him as our leader Nils has gone into the pits. So that puts Sailor up into the lead, and that puts Carbon into second. Now where will Nils rejoin? They're actually making repairs, so they must have picked up damage. So everyone's going through the walls at this stage. Now Nils picking up damage. They rejoin in 5th, so they split Stig and King. They'll be on slightly fresher tyres, not by much. Alphanut still leading Ybear, but Ybear seeming to be a fair bit more confident. Oh! And that's Alphanut going for a trip over the grass. And that's really going to allow Ybear to challenge coming into probably turn 5. He's going to have a bit of a run, looking for a wider entry. And Alphanut's really not happy with how the car's handling. It does have damage actually, so Alphanut's car does have damage, and that's allowing Ybear to really put on a challenge and make their way through the S's. So far, Alphanut doing a fantastic job just defending with a damaged car from, I'd imagine, the perfectly fine car of Ybear. Oh no, Ybear actually does have front aero damage as, as well, so both of these cars stricken on their performance. but they're still soldiering on, not letting this really affect their pit strategy. So Wybear's still within the slipstream range. I believe this is the closest thing on track at the moment. Again, Alpha not really struggling to keep the car turned in with that suspension damage that he suffered. Now will Wybear be able to get a bit of a run? We're going to go on board with his HKS Vertigo Audi. You can see the backfire from the exhausts. Fantastic to see as they get very close without touching to the back of them. Of course, with both with identical front aero damage, that would pretty much put them at even on the straight. But the suspension damage will certainly put Alpha at a disadvantage through the corners. It doesn't seem to be showing though, as they get a far superior exit, as Groot has just come into the pits for what would be a third time. Indeed, they actually picked up rear suspension and rear aero damage, so that's a bit of an odd one. They must have had a bit of a slide on the exit and perhaps just tapped the wall going out of the death chicane. That's all I can really think of, or perhaps out of this little hairpin where it's so easy to run wide at. So Alpha not seemingly having the gap under a bit of control at this stage. Can't quite shake Wybear off though. Be interesting to see if one of these goes for an undercut on the others. There's also two other cars getting a bit close to comfort. It's Arama being catched by King of Torque. So King doing a good job, and indeed Alphanut does come into the pits and Wybear stays out. And King of Torque goes around the outside to take third place from RBZ Arama. Let's just see if we can catch that one again. There you can see just seeming no real defense from Arama on that occasion. Perhaps might have made a bit of a mistake out of the corner before, but that it's put King up into third, which is very good considering they've already had to pit for damage and the top two haven't pitted at all. King still holding the fastest lap. There you also see in the background Nils. There he is. So he's in fifth. And also the Dakwa machine of TSR Stig not that far behind either. So the top six still all to play for. All the points playing positions as Stig just throws some sparks on the outside wall on the exit. King of Torque starting to gap Arama quite comfortably. Arama's still going. Now King will need to be breaking away as much as he can before Nils manages to get past, because we actually saw that Nils had a little bit of an edge on the race pace, at least earlier on in the stint. But Arama doing a very good job so far to run a car that they don't really know overly well, to my knowledge at least, to be running that in the points. Their last lap was a 1:39.9, so they do have a fair bit of pace as well. Just run a little bit wide over the exit curb of the S's. A little bit sliding again. You can start to see the marbles building up a little bit. As they're on a personal best lap, Nils is really starting to close up on them now. Let's just do a quick tyre comparison when we can. So those compared to a very fresh set of softs for Nilsman. So the tyre wear on Arama's car shouldn't be affecting them too much, but it will be affecting them a little bit. And Nils is managing to get themselves into that slipstream range. So they'll be probably making a challenge going into turn 2. In fact, they're going for turn 1. They've got the inside. So Arama doesn't really put up a fight again, just holds that line, but they do have the inside for the next section, so that is decent racecraft by them. As they do get a bit slidey, does Nils, on the exit of turn 3. All is well and good at this stage, but he's starting to be held up a little bit, and that's allowing the car behind TSR Stig to catch up, Lord Stigworth, as we know him as. There he is. 2.8 seconds back. And even in the dirty air, the BMW managing to follow so much closely. Perhaps trying to make a move going into the hairpin. Very defensive driver on that occasion from Arama, but Nils easily goes down the inside and runs a little bit deep, but seems to get the job done. And surely they're going to try and stay single file through the death chicane. Nils interestingly avoiding a little bit of the curb on that occasion. So the gap between them and King, 4.1 seconds. As King is going up to lap that Spinner Cup, and so Spinner Cup has had a fairly disastrous race. They are currently ranked down in 10th and a lap down, so that's really unfortunate and really surprising to see from the Adidas car. Normally they are very quick, very consistent, but it just seems that they haven't really gone their way at this point, as they've run very wide over the curb. That could have so easily ended in another yellow flag, but the yellow car avoids causing a yellow flag. At this stage they're getting blue flags as Nils is approaching, as is Arama. Haven't checked in on the race leader for quite a while. It is Sailor, of course, Team Black Diamond BMW. He's got the luxury of not really picking up damage on this stint, as has Carbon, who's 5.8 seconds behind him. That's basically allowing them to drive deeper into their stint and pull off the one stop a bit more comfortably, not having to deal with as worn tyres towards the end. They can sort of balance out the tyre wear between the two stints a fair bit better than those who had to pit early. So, good stuff from the Norwegian. The Waddle Dee, the Irishman known as Dynamic Carbon, doing a very solid job as well to keeping out the barriers at pole sitter. They did drop down the order a fair bit on the start, but they managed to make their way back up. So credit where credit's due, and it would seem that King is starting to gain on their teammate a little bit, as someone has had a massive snap going through the chicane. Yep, that was contact that Wybear picked up. They already had damage and they didn't go into pit it, so very lucky to avoid suspension damage on that occasion was Wybear. As Stig has just gone past Arama, and it looks like they're going to perhaps challenge. Oh, that's very ambitious from them, and Stig's just pulled off to one side. What's happened to Stig? Stig's gone. What on earth? So this was the original mistake. Stig is disconnected. At least that's what it would seem. So Stig, very, very nice move from them to put them up that position. The livery seems to have glitched as soon as they've left the lobby, and I can't even switch to them on here, but then they just up and disconnected, it would seem. So that's extremely unfortunate for TSR Stig and the Dakwa car. Again, another one of our top competitors, and really being held back, but that promotes Araba back up to 5th, and Wybear for HKS Vertigo, there's a team that needs points. They are currently running 6th 15 seconds ahead of Alphanut. Alphanut, who had to make a pit stop, if I recall, after picking up damage. Wybear choosing not to in the end. We're hearing from Joe Witt, who's now officially a trackside reporter, that Arama tapped Stig off and got damage, so Arama into the pits with said damage. Although I thought that they picked up the damage beforehand. Perhaps that wasn't the case, but Arama back out, and actually this is going to be close between them and Wybear, is it? No, not quite, but Wybear getting a lot closer than he was, and now that he can actually see Arama, he'll certainly be looking to take advantage. Less than 2 seconds separates those two. There's Nils just getting ahead of Spinnerkoppen. At least from what I saw, it didn't look like that big of an incident, if there was contact at all, but I could be completely mistaken regarding that. That will probably have to come up in the stewards chat as we review the replays and such. Of course, thank you to Joe Witt, temporary trackside reporter, I suppose now, for keeping us up to date regarding that. Nils coming under pressure, perhaps a little bit, needs to catch up to King. First, the gap is coming down to King. It seems like the Nuke Shot M6 is a little bit faster on the straights than the Dynamic Esports M6. But perhaps these guys have a little bit of an advantage through the corners, although King does have a massive twitch going through turn 4. It's generally a flat out corner. Then you can still probably just about see Nils in his mirrors if they get to a long enough straight. But it's not quite close enough to that yet. There you see them in the little bit of background. As indeed, it seems that King is a fair bit faster than Nils going through the S's. Nils seeming to lose a little bit of time through that. They perhaps just suffer from a bit of understeer. Yep, indeed. Just the understeer getting them a little bit offline, compromising their speed. It is so easy done, as I myself know from experience. You have to have the perfect line to carry maximum speed. But Nils seeming to be a bit more confident through the death chicane, so making up a little bit of that time, but the gap 4.1 seconds, now down to 4 seconds. Dynamic Com with a gap about as equal to the front as it is to the back. Hello to TSR Motorsport, that is one likely TSR Stig in the chat. Are you safer here? Hopefully, I suppose. Joe saw probably a better angle of the incident than I did. It'll probably come up in the stewards chat as you are a part of that, of course. But it didn't look, at least on my screen, as too major of a contact exiting turn 4, but enough to pick up damage apparently. Unless it was a bit before that. Nevertheless, Wybear now coming into the pits. So they're finally getting their damage repaired, but this is their mandatory pit stop. Where does that put them out at? That puts them out in 7th. And will be about 10 seconds behind Alphanut, who has definitely made a pit stop and is running in the last points playing position. Arama still doing a good job for Aston Martin and Moonshine Motorsports as a substitute for GRM Bandit on this occasion. Bandit not able to race due to real life commitments. So he'll be more than happy with how Arama's been doing so far in this one. Just definitely finding his rhythm with the V12 Vantage. As Rob has just left. So we're down to 9 runners. Of course, Rob was the one that parked up earlier in the green HK Vertigo car. Yeah, turn 4, that's where I thought it was. It looked like such a light thing, but we'll have to see. Of course, technically it is touring car racing, but we do have rules to make it as clean as we possibly can. Of course, drivers being penalised for incidents. And look at this, actually. While I'm going on about that, King of Torque has really been putting in a shift and is catching their teammate Dynamic Carbon by plenty of tenths. In fact, Carbon doesn't have damage. This is pure pace from King of Torque. And Carbon's actually dropped a lot of time from Sailor. Carbon's going into the pits, so they're making their pit stop. Now, I'm very surprised that they've dropped off the cliff that much. So, Sailor now with a 10-second gap, and it's going to be King of Torque who now is up into second. Nilsman promoted to third, and Carbon will rejoin in fourth on a bit of an island, but with fresher tyres for the remaining 17 laps. And the gap between King and Sailor seeming to have stabilized at around 10 seconds. Sailor still due a pit stop, I believe, yep. So, needs to make that as a mandatory thing. He might be in this lap, actually, considering we're a fair bit beyond the halfway mark in this race. See the brake disc glowing bright red as he's very hard onto the brakes, and indeed does come into the pits on this occasion. So Team Black Diamond will be servicing his car in a very bright yellow and red race team overall, as King also into the pits. So was King also a runner that hasn't made a pit stop yet? Or is this a second stop? I'll quickly check the live timing on this. It should say something about pit stops somewhere. Oh. I guess not. I thought it did, but apparently not, so my apologies. King gets out ahead of Carbon, but not by much. And it is indeed the second stop for King, according to TSR Stig, so thanks again for that. It's nice having so many trackside reporters keeping me in line and keeping me updated with everything that I end up missing, forgetting, or whatever else. Just going through some of the cars. Still going around. 9 runners left. Of course, the top 6 will be taking points. So, through all of that, it's currently Nils that leads with a gap of 5.5 seconds down to Sailor. Their tyres are a little bit warm, but not overly much. So Sailor has a little bit of work to do to get the gap back. No doubt he'll be doing his best as he makes his way through the turns 2 and 3 chicane. Marble's really starting to build up on the outside lines of that. So easy to drop a wheel on that and just understeer off to Narnia. Our driver's doing a very good job to avoid that at this stage, as it seems that someone is going slowly. I think that was just Elphanut lapping Spinnerkoppen. So Spinnerkoppen just going slowly and out of the way. Arama's still doing a good job in 5th. Going back to King and Carbon. So this is probably the closest thing on track, as someone has gone into the pits. I believe that is Spinnerkoppen. So King's starting to extend the gap a little bit, now up to 2 seconds. He's gone purple, so of course the fresh tyres and being lower on fuel certainly allowing him to push a fair bit more. Very, very solid, staying very far away from the wall on that occasion. Do not blame him, we've seen plenty of incidents in that death chicane in the past. And the gap continuing to increase over his teammate, who was the pole sitter. We remember back to the start. So Carbon, as I may have alluded to earlier on, as King does set the new fastest lap of 1:36.990. So fantastic pace from them, but Carbon not really matching his race pace with his 1 lap pace, it would seem. At least at this stage. Perhaps it is just taking him a little bit of a while to warm up the tyres. And we're hearing that Arama may have had a crash? What's this? So that must have been out of the death chicane. So Arama's picked up really heavy damage. That's engine, front aero, suspension. So that's extremely unfortunate for the well, the Dutch driver, and of course Moonshine Motorsports as a whole. They're looking for points as soon as the as soon as they got in and stopped, they just seemed to teleport out again. So by doing that, they only lose 1 position, and that promotes Y-Ben, the HKS Vertigo machine, back onto the last points position. Now, something I should probably know. Okay, they didn't choose to go for new tyres, which is understandable as their tyres are very fresh. Just trying to keep note of that. Also a very funny autocorrect by Joe Witt in the chat. Now I could make a joke, but I probably can't air it. King of Talk. He's currently still in 3rd actually, so this is King of Talk, of course, in the red little decals as opposed to the blue on Carbon's car. Still going faster and faster. Purple yet again in Sector 1. The fastest lap of the race now at 1:36.668. So he's going to be closing down the gap to Sailor. The gap between Sailor and Nils seeming to have stabilized a little bit. Nils on more worn rubber, it has to be said though, as Groot is coming in. No damage for him, this is just a tyre change. His tyres are a little bit worn. Not overly bad, but it will start affecting his pace. And we'll probably just be trying to get to the end on this set. As Nils now coming up. As it looked like that was Spinnerkoppen again coming into the pits. Damage. So again, That must have been through the chicane of death. Back to our race leader Nils, doing a very solid job just maintaining that gap. Their tyres are looking a little bit worse for wear, but with around 11 laps to go. And he's still actually just got personal best in Sector 1, so he isn't losing pace on himself, it has to be said. Still the top 4, all BMWs, seeming to definitely be the car of choice for this championship over the last 2 seasons. Or at least the teams that have been running them have been of the highest quality that the season has seen. Highest of the non-BMWs, still Alpha Nut. It's how it qualified actually, down in 5th. So a very solid job, it has to be said, from Alpha Nut. It was had to pit and did fall very far down the order, but they managed to keep persistent and they find themselves quite comfortably in the points with 11 seconds down to Y-Bear. Sailor coming across the line. The next gen sponsored Team Black Diamond car, of course, driven by the Norwegian, making his way through turns 2 and 3. Generally quite solid. There's blue flags being waved by the marshals up ahead, so I'm not quite sure who that is for. Perhaps they're a bit closer to Nils. Ah, it's Groot. So Groot is getting blue flags and will eventually have to get out the way of the cars coming through. Won't have to at this stage, as Nils is very much quite far back. But as Nils begins to catch, he will eventually have to concede. Looks like they won't be affected by him going up towards the death chicane. There was a little bit of a twitch, it seemed, from the car of Sailor. I'll quickly see if I can get a short replay of this. Yep, just a little bit shaky, which is a bit concerning considering they are on fresher tyres than Nils. The gap's starting to come down a little bit as Nils has lost a bit of time. So again, I think Nils's tyres are starting to hit the point where they're losing performance. It's perhaps allowing Sailor to take a bit more speed through the chicane. And of course the last corner, someone's facing backwards. Who's that? It's Spinnerkopen. So we're gonna have to see what happened to them here. So they get it completely wrong at the death chicane, and they cause yellow flags in that sector. So extremely unfortunate for the Adidas car. Look at the damage that they've got. Pretty much everything except for their rear left suspension. And then they spend themselves a lot of time pretty much doing like a 3-point turn or so. And they're just now managing to limp back to the pits. So definitely a track that doesn't seem to be favouring the Frenchman at all. He'll be hoping to just forget about this race and move on to the next one by the time it's done. Has to be said, 4 minutes and 13 seconds down off the leader. As Nils is finally finding his way past Groot, and Groot does indeed not hold him up. So fair play to Groot for that, as they actually run a fair bit wide over the exit, as someone's gone off at I think that was turn 2. That was a Rama. I can't quite find a car. I can't find, there was a car near him, but I can't quite catch it, unfortunately. Spinner couple was the car I was looking for. Doesn't help when everyone's a bit jumbled up, but it seems that Arama just really got them braking or something wrong. Perhaps just clipping the gravel, and that sent them round. We'll have to get confirmation from them in the chat or something. That is completely my fault for missing that one. But that has indeed happened, and now we're down to 8 runners in this race. Nils still our race leader. Sailor still second, and there you also see in the background King of Talk in third. So King of Talk's last lap for 37.0. Extremely fast pace from the Brit. And he is catching both of the cars ahead of him, it has to be said. Sailor still charging around. The gap to Nils, 4 seconds. And they set a personal best lap. Oh, yep, my apologies as the stream just messed up a little bit. So that lap was a 137.4. Still the blue flags being waved again. Group not close enough to really be affecting Sailor at this point, even as they go through the S's. In Formula 1, it's approximately 5 seconds apparently that dirty air starts affecting the cars out. Of course, with the, you could certainly say more simple aerodynamics of GT cars, it is certainly not as bad as that. Hence we are able to have such close racing. Well, the gap is starting to fluctuate a little bit between Sailor and Nils. Now 3.8 seconds, 3.9. And again, it seems that Sailor is gaining through the last part of the death chicane. The fresher tyres seem to just grip up a fair bit more. And King of Talk really not that far behind Sailor at this point, so those two could start battling. Looked like King was running a little bit wide, but no, they didn't run too wide. They compromised their exit speed a little bit though. Dynamic Carbon still currently 4th. I will not be happy with that because he was our pole sitter, of course. But still solidly in the points and 41 seconds ahead of Alpha Nut in 5th. So Alpha Nut currently 5th. And highest of the non-BMWs, of course. No doubt some of the other teams will be wanting the BMWs to be nerfed or something, as they have been extremely dominant, but I personally would have to say it's probably down to the teams themselves and probably the drivers as well, because we've seen from the likes of Stig in the past that the Audis are very competitive. The Aston Martins, perhaps not so much. We haven't really seen an Aston Martin win a race this season, if I recall. In fact, the only Aston Martin left in this race after the retirement of Arama is Spinner Coffin of Team Spirit, and he's currently several laps down. He's currently 2 laps down. Last lap was a 143.0 rather. Back to our lead little scrap. We've got about 6 or so laps to go. Nils still with a gap. It's lowering, but it is still a gap. It's 3.3 seconds between them and Sailor, and they're doing a good job to hold on. Their tyres starting to fade a bit more. Will be even more challenging to drive as they progress further and further into this race. But it has to be said that Sailor's also losing a bit of time to King of Torque. So King of Torque starting to catch a fair bit quicker. It would seem that Nils is being caught by Sailor. All three of these guys now ahead of I Am Group, so they won't have any traffic at this particular stage. The next bit of traffic is Spinnacope, and he's going through the last turn, and there you see Nils going through the second to last. Again, gap seeming to stabilise. Sailor's tyres only slightly worn. Actually, looking at the fuel loads, Sailor has used a fair bit more fuel than everyone else, and with so many laps to go, I'm perhaps wondering whether he's going to have to start fuel saving at some point. It's going to be cutting it a bit close. We'll have to wait and see. He does have around 6 laps to go. Oh, sorry, 5 laps at this stage. He's still setting personal best. It's a 10th and a half faster than their current best, so still charging along. As the car does get lighter, it does pick up pace, of course. And King of Torque bringing the gap down to 1.7 seconds, and the gap to Nils still remaining about the same. So King really just needs to keep pushing and see if he can get in the slipstream range. At the moment, seeming to just about hold on that gap. It's 7/10 is the range of slipstream when it's set to real that you need to be in for it to start having an effect. And King just seeming to brake so much later than Sailor through there and carry so much more speed. It's now down to 1.5 seconds. Going on board with the white and red dynamic esports car of King of Torque. Again, 16 on the helmet, 98 on the the number board on the car, because logic. You can really just see him pushing the limits of it. Someone's gone round. Someone has gone round. Who was that? That was Groot, actually. So we're gonna have a quick replay of what happened to Groot. So they was getting blue flags, and it was the curb that just seemed to spit them out. They got understeer from it, and then they again just clipped the gravel, pretty much did a CJ. Although a bit more of an extreme case than a CJ normally is, and that has really not done them any favours. Lucky to avoid engine damage, of course. The mid-engine R8, if it's hitting the back, it generally picks up engine damage as opposed to front impacts. But still, any chances of points for this race for Groot further slipping out of his grasp. And still, the chase is on, and King has finally got himself into that 7/10 range as Sailor had a bit of a slide coming out the second to last turn. And King is starting to gain. Will he be able to do anything? I think he's a bit too far back to challenge going into this next section. So Sailor is going to be feeling the pressure. Just needs to keep his calm. Probably can't really focus that much on catching Nils at this point. Needs to focus more on what's happening behind. King again fair bit later on the brakes, not using as much curb as Sailor. He's currently gone purple again in Sector 1. Currently holds the fastest lap, so we know the pace of him. Look, he's really closing up to the back bumper. He just needs to find a way of getting alongside. Sailor does well to try and cover him off. As they make their way up towards the hairpin, King's going to try the outside. Maybe a cutback. No, can't quite get it to work. But King is still absolutely glued to the back of him. He's going to be extremely close again, and Spinnacopen in the Aston Mine just stops at the side, allowing them to go through, and King's going to try the outside line.com, tries to sweep it round the outside of Sailor, and it manages to work. What a fantastic move from King of Torque. But will Sailor be able to do anything in return? We'll have to go to a rear wing shot to see as Spinnacopen goes into the pits yet again. And indeed, Sailor is trying something. Sailor's going to try the outside himself. It's going to put King on a bit of a compromise run through the chicane, but it looks like King has just about managed to defend it, or does it, because Sailor's looking to challenge again. Sailor now being the chaser and not the chased. Perhaps prefers it this way. Although King's starting to get a little bit of a gap. If Sailor loses out to that slipstream range, it's pretty much over. This is the second to last lap, so it's still all to play for. King just able to carry so much more speed through the S's, and now that they've got ahead of Sailor, they're really closing down the gap to Nils. It's now already down to below 2 seconds. So Nils's tyres are really falling off the edge of a cliff. You can really just see how much it's worn compared to the car behind. So Nils is really just going to have to try and hang on. Sailor, they're just outside of the slipstream range, but it just takes one slip up from King for them to be back up into second, and slip ups from him and Nils in order to be on the top step for the podium in this one. As the drivers are coming on to the last lap of this race, it is Nilsman who is our race leader, followed closely by King of Torque. 1.3 seconds separates them. Nils is on worn tyres, King's are a fair bit fresher, and King has proven that he does have the pace to go on and win this one. It's all down to Nils just not cracking under the pressure, and whether the tyres will last. Nils giving it absolutely everything he has. King doing likewise, closing up. He's purple again in Sector 1. And no doubt he's going to be gaining a load of time going through the S's as well. But will it be enough to put him in the slipstream range for this straight? This could be crucial. Is King going to be in the slipstream range for this straight? He isn't. So that's going to put him a bit further back than he would have liked. Nils actually a fair bit more solid on the brakes, but perhaps outbroke himself a little bit. Now King is in the slipstream range, but it's single file as they make their way through the death chicane for the last time. All eyes are on this battle for the lead. Things are really closing up in the final stages. Nils, currently our race leader, just about managing to hold on. Just one more corner to go for Nilsman. And King is in the slipstream range. The checkered flag is out. I don't think it's going to be enough. It's going to be Nilsman who takes the win here at Dragon Trail. And King of Torque in second place. Sailor settles for third. What a fantastic drive, it has to be said, from Nilsman. Managing to hold on with the extremely worn tyres for a fantastic result here today in the Breitling Nukeshot BMW M6. It's BMW's 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the end of things as Dynamic Carbon comes across the line to take fourth place. VRC Alpha Nut I believe they recently changed their gamer tag to include VRC in their name actually, so that's quite useful. So they're coming through the death chicane for the last time. They will surely be picking up 5th, although Wybear's 3 seconds behind. And they're on quite warm tires. Someone span out in the last sector. Who's that? That must have been Spinnercopen or Groot. These guys are coming across the line, so Spinnercopen will come home to take 8th. Groot will come home in 2nd. Alpha Nut 5th. And the final finisher will be Wybear in 6th. It is Nilsman who stands on the top step of the podium. Congratulations to them. All that hard work has paid off. What a fantastic result for him here today in Croatia. What an absolutely exciting and thrilling climax to this race that we've had. Absolutely awe-inspiring. Just how everything came together towards the end. This was arguably the most exciting race we've had this season so far. Certainly the most exciting climax of that. Nils celebrating in chat. Congratulations being shown from King. A fantastic race by all of the top 3, it has to be said. Just quickly go to the race results here. King of Torque with the fastest lap set on lap 27, a 1:36.524. That is an earth-shattering time, but it wasn't quite enough in the end. The gap 5/10 between him and Nils on the line. Nilsman taking the win for Nukeshot BMW. King of Torque for Dynamic Esports taking 2nd, and Sailor for Team Black Diamond coming 3rd. So 3 different BMW teams in the top 3 positions. That is quite an interesting little situation that we had going on there. Dynamic Carbon came home 4th, 9.7 seconds back from the leader. And then it was the 3 Audi R8 LMSs. So Alpha Nut getting the better of Wybear in the end, but not much in it, only around 3 seconds between those two, and Groot finishing a lap down, and then it's Spinnercopen in the only Aston Martin to survive, down by 3 laps. They finished 8th. Ah, right, the replay data. That's a good thing that Carbon's reminded me of there. Now, I could be completely mistaken regarding this, but I believe that Nils, at least from my personal experience with him, doesn't really have a mic, so interviewing him will be a bit of a pain, but I think we can very much have an interview with King of Torque, one of the stories of the race. Perhaps we'll try an interview through text. But for now, we will try and set up an interview with King of Torque. So I will get all of that sorted. Okay, so the invite has been sent to King of Talk. Let's see how long it takes for them to respond to said invite. And we have him here now. I believe you've been interviewed before, so the voice share settings should be alright. King of Talk, has to be said, if you look at it based on qualifying and then the finishing order, you could certainly tell a fairly different story. You qualified second, finished the race second, but what a race it was in the end, full of twists and turns. Your comments on your result?
Yeah, very happy. My engineer did a fantastic call on the strategy, so thanks to Q for that. But yeah, I hit the wall in the first stint, which was very disappointing. But I somehow managed to get good pace, and one more lap and I would have won.
I know, it certainly did seem like, because the tyres on Nils were a fair bit older, you really did sort of come into your own in the latter stages, and you really could have had a win if there was just one lap to go, but unfortunately it wasn't the case on this occasion.
Yeah, I think just congratulations to Nielsman, I think his name is. Good win, but as he said himself, one more lap and I would have had him. So disappointed to have made the mistake and hit the wall, but good comeback.
Yeah, nonetheless, second place, a fantastic result for you in the championship fight. Congratulations on that, and hope to. Well, actually, I recall you saying something about you wanted your engineer to join the chat. Or the
Yeah, would it be
something
possible?
Yeah, go ahead. Might as well.
Oh, nice. I'll suggest him now. Where is he? Yeah, if you could add him, he'll talk you through the strategy and stuff like that. So disappointed to have bottled it, man.
I know. These things happen. Really unfortunate. But it certainly made for some fantastic action, it has to be said, in the closing stages.
Yeah. I had a fantastic overtake on Sailor. I'm not sure if you caught it on camera, but it was really good.
Was that the one where you went around the outside?
Yeah,
yes.
the outside.
Yeah, I think that was caught. Q-Tip, you must be very, very happy with how everything's panned out today, being the race engineer of King of Talk, of course. We hear that you was going to take us through a bit of the strategy calls that you were making midway through this one.
Well, I mean, we had a fantastic start. Kingo made mincemeat of the field. Yeah, we built up a nice 6.5 second gap. You know, I just wanted to make sure he was fine. But sadly, we made a little bit of a mistake. It was probably my fault. I think I did sadly distract him. But no, we found amazing pace. We went faster in the quali. So, but it was a really, really great race for us. And second place from the race, you know, it's big points for us. And we're hoping to see if we can capitalise on the next couple of races coming out.
Yeah, of course. Looking forward to the next race in the calendar. I'm just going to quickly see if I can get this up on my smartphone. Might take a little while to load. Where are we racing next week? We are going to... Drum roll. Please load phone. Circuit de Catalunya.
Oh, okay. Well,
okay.
I've shown we have good pace there before.
Yeah, of course. I believe that was on the race calendar last season as well, and I recall. I can't remember if it was a really good race for King or a really bad one, but
It was a really bad one.
Yeah, right. I knew it was one or the other. So, King, you must be very confident going into next week, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, saying that, last season, I believe, in qualifying we qualified second because I just wanted to stick behind my teammate basically because we were hunting for the constructors. But I think I was around 2 seconds a lap quicker when I was pushing flat out. and a little bit of a laggy incident off the start put me in the wall and I had major damage. So hopefully that doesn't happen this season, and maybe try and get some more wins.
Right.
The championship's not over yet.
It isn't indeed, and it's certainly you're making a very strong case for yourself to become the next champion, following, of course, majestic Chin Radish the third. So yeah, fantastic to have you, both of you guys, in for this interview. Thanks again for coming along, and congratulations on this result.
Thank you very much.
Alright, I'm just going to quickly scroll through this. Well, I think we'll be okay on the interview part for now, but of course, major congratulations to Nilsman for a fantastic drive. Of course, my own driver in the series, racing for Nookshot Motorsport, so definitely no bias there at all. I was having a heart attack in the booth, I can say. But again, fantastic race that we've had here today at Dragon Trail. It certainly didn't disappoint. We've had some DNFs, which was unfortunate due to various reasons. Some people that couldn't quite make it, but we've had some substitutes. And it certainly has proved to be a fantastic show here at Dragon Trail in Croatia. So we hope you've enjoyed the stream. We hope to see you next time out, of course, at Circuit de Catalunya. That is in a week's time. Also, we'll be going back to Super Formula as well on Fridays next week, so that's always fun to watch, and a bit more hectic, I would say. Hopefully we get some more entries for that series as well, but we'll have to see what Carmen does regarding that. But until then, I have been your commentator for today, Nookshot Zokyo. This has been Dynamic Racing Leagues, DTM, and I will see you next time, folks. Goodbye.